TCI is brought to you by Spendthrift Stallion Temple City, a top 5 freshman sire of 2014, led by undefeated Saratoga Grade 2 winner Startup Nation.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Breeders' Cup. Alongside Joel Cunningham, I'm John Siegel. Well, Joel, we got a lot to talk about. Let's jump right into last weekend's races. You know, we saw the Travers, a race that had a ton of talent in there. You were really high on Toneless. Joel, you really have to be disappointed with that performance.
I was very disappointed, John. I mean, here's a horse that I thought 10 furlongs was going to be perfect for. You had that prep in the Jim Dandy, and perhaps it's a matter of him just not liking Saratoga's racetrack, but he was very disappointing. And it was an oddly run race. You know, Bayern broke so sharply, they had to use a couple horses to be able to hook him early. Then the pace sort of came back. But I thought he settled well enough, as well as Wicked Strong, who kicked onto the wire. Toneless, however, was done at the 8th pole. Did not like him at all in there, and he now becomes a horse that I thought could be a Breeders' Cup Classic contender amongst the 3-year-old group against older horses at 10 furlongs. Now, to me, he's off the radar. I saw enough based on that performance that I just don't feel like he's a real classic player now.
All right, well, let's talk about a 3-year-old who did shine on the weekend. Of course, I'm talking about Shared Belief. Joel, he had 2 tests over the weekend. He had the distance test and also the class test. Joel, I think he passed with flying colors in both of those.
Definitely the performance of the weekend, maybe the performance of the summer, John. And what was so key about this was the 1.25 distance. It was a question mark to me that was really looming for this colt. When you looked at his pedigree, some sprint in that female family, you know, and quick action, such a brilliant horse. Could he get a 1.25? And we saw that performance this weekend. Let's go now to Twin Spires TV race replay with the play button here. And you missed what you don't see here is the beautiful move he made around the far turn to get in contention here. I mean, just a tremendous talent here, John. He powers away from this group. See Game On Dude there on the rail. I think he's seen his better days. He went a little fast early, but he still competed to the wire here, ran a nice 4th. But your winner here, runaway winner, in a 111 Brisnet number. All the speed figures across the board were very positive. 1.25. He now becomes a definite front runner in that classic division. And just to compare, V.E. Day, the upset winner of the Travers, got a 102 Brisnet number. He got a 111. That just shows you how good he is. To me, he's on top of that 3-year-old division now.
Well, let's go ahead and look at the Classic division, and let's look at the top 5 for the Classic division. You know, I see here California Chrome, an interesting 3-year-old. Joel, he was on top of his game, you know, going into the Derby and into the Preakness, all the Triple Crown races. He's going to be coming back. I think he's going to run the Pennsylvania Derby next. You got him in the number 5 spot.
Well, he likes Santa Anita so much, John, that I think you have to have him in the top 5 based on his early season accomplishments. We'll see how he comes back off of his freshening and that minor foot injury, but certainly the quality's there, and the fact he likes the track, I have to put him in the top 5.
All right, number 4, you got Moreno. He's a horse that we're going to talk about a little later in the show. He won the Whitney last time out. He'll be tested again this weekend. You got him in at number 4.
Again, I'm concerned about his ability to rate in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think there's a lot of speed, you know, horses like Lay, and there's a lot of horses, I think, pointing towards that Classic that have speed. You're going to have to be able to stalk or show some rateability with that sort of pace scenario, but he's a horse that likes 10 furlongs. I think Moreno's on top of his game. I've always liked his talent all along. They finally got him right now, and I think he's set up for a big summer.
All right, we see the 3-year-old here fittingly in at number 3. Of course, we just talked about the performance he had. No surprise you got him in the top 5.
Yeah, I think you have to put him in the top 3 now, even though he's a 3-year-old that's going to have to face elders. I don't like him as well as maybe some of the other horses, a couple of the older horses we'll talk about in a little bit, but certainly he definitely put himself in the conversation off that victory.
All right, number 2, you have Palace Malice. Concerned at all he's not running into Woodward this weekend?
Not at all. He needed a break, John. I mean, he had to regress at some point. I mean, here's a horse that has been running lights out since early this year, shipping around from Florida to New Orleans, you know, up to New York, been running so tough. He was bound to regress at some point. He loves Belmont. He'll get that freshening, that opportunity to come back, face our number 1, the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I think that's going to be a huge prep for the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Well, you mentioned Will Take Charge. Of course, everyone remembers last year he lost by just a nose. Sounds like you think it's going to set up perfectly for him again in the Classic this year. Is that why you got him in number 1?
I thought he ran well in the Whitney last time. I mean, the speed just got away from him. But here's a colt that's, again, he's another one that's had a tough campaign. But you look at his Santa Anita races at a 1.25, and you look at all the projected speed in this year's Classic. His ability to come from off the pace, I think, is key. I think if Will Take Charge can refine that form after a brief freshening, I think he's still the horse to beat, in my opinion, in the Breeders' Cup Classic.
Well, JC, it's Breeders' Cup time. We got grade ones all over the place this weekend, but let's talk about two that we have at Saratoga. And let's start off with the Forego, the sprint division. We haven't talked much about that yet this year. You got Clearly Now as a horse that you're really looking at in here. I think he set a track record last time out. You think he's got a big shot in here?
I like Clearly Now, and he's a 7-furlong specialist. Now, what we need to learn about Clearly Now that we won't learn this week in the Forego is, can he back up and be as productive coming from off the pace at 6 furlongs to be a true Breeders' Cup sprint contender? But to me, if I were to rank two horses right now at the top of the sprint division, we don't have a top 5 quite yet. Clearly Now would be up there for me, and Private Zone would also be up. Remember last year, he was my best bet in the Breeders' Cup. He did not run well in the Breeders' Cup. Came back, ran well in the Cigar Mile at the end of the year. But to me, Private Zone is another very talented sprinter out of the Doug O'Neill barn. And so these two facing off at 7 furlongs, I think this Forego is going to be a very productive race in the sprint division.
All right, let's talk about another major race. We just mentioned it a little bit. It's the Woodward. Joel, we see It's My Lucky Day and Moreno. This is a rematch of the Whitney where we saw those two. Moreno won it. It's My Lucky Day ran second. You know, It's My Lucky Day, he really stepped up into that grade 1 competition, had won some listed stakes and I think a grade 3 at Monmouth. But now he's running back in a grade 1 here. What do you think of his chances?
I loved his race last time out in the Whitney, and he proved that he's on top of his game, and he's not just a miler. He can indeed be a true mile and eighth type horse, in my opinion. They're putting the blinkers on here, so I think he's the key to the race. How early he goes after Moreno is going to dictate the outcome of this race. Well, they set it up for horses like Zevo or maybe Chad Brown's other horse in here, a closer based on how aggressive they are, you know, going into the far turn. How fast do they want to hook front runner Moreno? We know Moreno's going to lead. I think Moreno's the horse to beat, but blinkers on It's My Lucky Day. If he is able to hook Moreno on the far turn, could set it up for a closer and upset here.
All right, Joel, let's talk about some 2-year-olds here for a minute. You know, we're running into that juvenile, and of course, we start kind of catapulting towards the Derby. That's next season, though. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about them in the present. We have the Hopeful this weekend. We see two really talented 2-year-olds running in here. Competitive Edge, who's just a maiden winner, but Joel, he won by 10 lengths at Saratoga.
Well, Competitive Edge is going to be your favorite. I like the other Super Saver colt if he runs, and that's I Spin It, because to me, when I look at this Hopeful group, I see a lot of speed. I mean, Signature Cat is very quick out of the gate. There's a lot of speed signed on here. So what I want to see from Competitive Edge is if I Spin It stays in the race and doesn't scratch, I think he's going to have the race set up for him, his off-the-pace style. I think he has some quality going 7 furlongs. However, if he scratches, I want to see Competitive Edge, how he handles that early pressure. Because, John, he's going to face a lot of early speed in here, and he's going to have to show that he can rate off of it, finish strong to be able to win a race like this.
Well, Joel, it's an exciting time of year moving into the Breeders' Cup. We got divisions running everywhere, so we'll come back next week. And
Wise Dan, Horse of the Year in action. I mean, a lot of good 2-year-old fillies in action, so a big weekend.
That's going to be a good feel-good story there, seeing Wise Dan back in action.
Definitely.
Hey, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back next week. It's a long holiday weekend of some really good racing. We'll go ahead and update you on a lot of top 5s.